Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ash here coming to you today in Brawl Stars. Today I am so happy to be joined by first-time guest in Brawl Stars, second-time guest because he was a former Clash Royale pro. It's none other than Rob Stark, aka Coach Cory, thanks to a rebranding. Cory, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Ash. Thanks for having me back, man.
No problem. Excited about your rebrand. Did you figure that Rob Stark was just too much like Game of Thronesy when people searched it in YouTube?
Yeah, I had a lot of people tell me my name was hard to find, so that sort of was like, well, I kind of want people to be able to find my channel.
Yeah, searching. So, yeah, it's gonna be tough. You're gonna like fighting with Game of Thrones just to get on your own page of search results. So yeah, makes a lot of sense. But you're actually one of my very favorite Brawl Stars content creators. So I hope everybody watching.
Thank you, man.
No problem, man. I hope everybody watching goes and subscribes to Rob, aka Coach Cory, because stellar content, especially you really, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you really narrow into kind of the fine strategy inside Brawl Stars, and you hone in onto specific maps and specific game modes and stuff like that.
Yeah, I try and provide sort of like a high-level strategy overlook. Really just trying to teach the audience as much as possible.
Yeah, man. Well, you do a great job at it. I love the name Coach Cory too, because you are like kind of a coach.
Yeah, with the theme.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I can't wait till your channel blows up when it goes global, hopefully. And that's why I invited you to come on today to talk about, because you're someone who's really passionate about Brawl Stars. It's the only game you cover now, and you're in the #1 band Invictus. You're a really good player in your own right. You have an intimate understanding about the game. So I wanted to get it from your perspective, where the game is right now and where it needs to be in order to go global. So Clash Royale had a 3-month beta. Boom Beach had a 7-month beta. Supercell, I think, has on the record saying this is going to be the longest beta of any of their games ever. The question to you is is it ready right now in your opinion?
Probably not. But I think some of it is a question of, want for people what want in the game versus actually need to go global too. There's a lot of things that people want to have, but maybe isn't needed for global. So I think that's a good question too.
Elaborate on that a little bit. What do you think people? What do you think the biggest needs are, and then how do you separate those from the wants?
So I think this is partly true for the devs too. I think one of the biggest wants maybe is more brawlers. And then also more game events and more maps. But personally, I think just as a player, I think Brawlers probably isn't actually that important of a thing for going global. I think more the different features is probably more important, like the ability to share replays with your clan or the ability to see who's online, stuff like that. I think is probably more important than something like new Brawlers.
Yeah, so like all those quality of life things. And as a content creator as well, I totally empathize with that sentiment, because it's something that, you don't always want to just show your own gameplay every single video, every single time, right? It's nice to kind of see things from different perspectives and maybe have someone on who's really good with a specific brawler that you might not be really great at. So replays and maybe even live spectating would be awesome. Is there anything else that you put in that need category?
Yeah, so I think one of the problems right now with high-level gameplay is just like any game, you want to be able to keep your top players playing for a long time. Well, right now, there's really not much motivation for any of the top players to keep playing because, one, it's actually sort of fairly easy to get to 500 trophies. Just to get to 400, you barely have to win over 50% of your games, which, really isn't that hard for some people if you have the elixir or whatever. But once you're past 500, you sort of just end up losing a lot of your trophies at the end of the season. So what's the reason to keep playing? So I think that's one of the struggles right now is they sort of need to reward, high-end gameplay more.
Yeah, and there's only, it's like, where every Supercell game is in its infancy, where, ladder, essentially, trophies or whatever is the only thing to do, right? There's no other game modes or anything like that, no other way to compete with people. Do you think they need like a whole new game mode, like Clan Wars in Clash of Clans, like challenges in Clash Royale, or like operations in Boom Beach, or do you think that it's okay right now? It just needs some more content for the people who are already at the top or at the end of the game.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really good question. I do think it does, maybe not from a sort of entertainment perspective, but maybe from a revenue perspective. In terms of, creating like a challenge where they can charge gems to enter. I do think they need more sort of revenue generating stuff. There's really maybe some people concept, but it's sort of easy to max out in this game just money wise compared to other Supercell games. I think friendly battles though could go a long way towards providing that sort of content of doing other things where you don't have to be playing ladder. But challenges could be good too.
Absolutely.
Something like that.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And, there's two things I want to touch on there as kind of follow-up questions. One is monetization, right? Because that's important, even though the players don't really care too much about it. I mean...
Sure, they wish it was all free, right?
Exactly. I mean, you care about, like, how much do I have to pay in order to get X, Y, or Z. But from a game health situation, it is an important aspect in the game. And I kind of feel like the monetization isn't obvious in this game, like skins and a little bit for Elixir and the Brawl boxes. So, like, what do you think of the economy as a whole in the game? And do you think there's any obvious method to improving it to make it monetize better for Supercell?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious thing, right, is you could add more skins, but I don't think that's really going to add that much, especially long term. I really think they need something almost like completely different and maybe it's just something none of us have thought of, but something like challenges where you have something to continually spend gems. Something where you can spend gems and get a reward, like, gold or brawl boxes or skins or whatever. Something like that. I think one cool idea as a potential like challenge is you could have like an event type challenge where you do that event type and it randomizes the map and you like have your team and then you have like 30 seconds to pick your brawlers and then you can go in, just like a regular challenge, you can only get 3 losses and however many wins you get different rewards, something like that. That would be cool.
That would be really cool. And it strikes me that Brawl Stars is unique because it's like a Supercell version of a MOBA. But if you look at MOBAs, like how do they solve that problem of a lack of content or lack of things to do once you've already unlocked everything? And I think that they solve that with like a really in-depth ranking system, right? Whether it's
true.
Prestige or whether it's just ranking on with every individual brawler, leaderboards for every brawler, stuff like that, which they already kind of have. But do you think it would serve Brawl Stars better if there were just a more in-depth ranking system? Do you think that's the answer, or are you looking for something even more than that?
Yeah, I definitely think it would help, right? Because it would give you more motivation to keep playing, which is definitely a factor. So like maybe something like leagues or ranking, as you were saying.
Yeah.
I think they would need more than that, though, for sure. I do think it would help, though.
What about new events? You already talked about new brawlers. You don't think it's necessarily the answer. However, I'm sure they'll continue to make a few here and there. But do you think that how many events do you think is a right number for this game? Different types of game modes. Do you think that it's something they should just expand to 20, 30 events? Or do you think they should keep it limited?
Yeah. So I think one of the things I would like to see, and maybe this can only happen more when it's global and there's a larger player base, but I think it would be if you could have more events going at the same time, right? Because right now it's 3 for the most part, except for like the double XP every 5 days, and then there's 4 events at one time. I think 4 events at one time would be great. I do think maybe they need at least one more game mode so they can sort of do that more so you're not repeating stuff as often. I do think you might need a larger player base because sometimes if it's a not popular event, it can take some time to find games or you end up facing the same people a lot. Or if you're lower levels, you can easily face high-level people. I know some people complain about that. So yeah, I do think they need at least one more game mode. I guess maybe if you end up having more slots, you might end up needing a little more, though. Okay,
yeah, that's a fair answer. Do you think that in terms of the meta and stuff like that, do you think that the meta is healthy enough right now for it to go global?
I think so. I think they could definitely do some small balance changes. But you can pretty much play every brawler. I mean, the nice thing about Brawl Stars is, different maps and different event types favor different brawlers. So it's not like where there's maybe in Clash Royale or something where they either nerf a card to like Oblivion or like you really just sort of can't use it. Whereas, Brawl Stars, well, you can use it in certain places, at the least. So I think that keeps it healthy. And I think that's very good, and I'm sure it will continue to change too. But I like it right now for the most part.
I think that's a great point. I think that you hit the nail on the head there. Using different brawlers, for, in kind of using their strengths and weaknesses depending on the game mode is awesome, and I think that's really one of the keys to the success in beta so far of Brawl Stars. What about the bans? They expanded the ban size from 50 to 100.
Yeah.
But it's something I frequently hear. I'm sure that you hear it sometimes too. That outside the top maybe 15, 20 bans in the world, everything else is kind of like dead. That it's really difficult to find groups. How do you solve that issue? It seems like sort of a challenge.
Yeah, so I actually think I have two separate answers here.
Okay.
And one of them is to do with bans, and the other is to do with random matchmaking. So with bans, I think one thing that could really help is just sort of like more stats to determine like activity. So like if you can really tell who's being active. So I think that's one thing right now is there are all these people that are in these bands, and there's probably a good amount of people who just aren't active, and maybe they could find more active people otherwise, but they really don't know if they're playing or not. You have no way to tell unless you're like writing down their trophies every week or something. So like maybe if you can see who's online or how many games they're playing a week or just some sort of thing. And I think they touched on that in the last Brawl Talk. They wanted to do more stats in that way, but I'm not really sure what they had planned.
Yeah, I agree. I think that even like stats, I'm such a huge fan of stats, and usually Supercell is not a huge fan of stats. They like to keep things a little bit more simple just on their previous games. But I do think that they're maybe moving in that direction, and I think that even things that I think that would really benefit the game and make it a little bit spicier is being able to be in a game room and just share your stats on brawlers easily. Like, okay, this is my stats, this is my win-loss ratio with this brawler. That's what they have in Arena of Valor. I really like that. And and another thing too, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I think that one little issue in the game, or maybe a big issue in the game, is that a lot of people that I know who pick up the game, they go hard and they burn out, and they're like, okay, there's just not much else to do. I think that maybe a kind of not obvious solution to that would be making, and bear with me here because it doesn't sound apparent why this is going to be a great solution, but I think that making a 5v5 mode would be really interesting, or even like a 4v4, 5v5, basically expanding it from just 3v3, because I think that it's way more fun to play in like a bigger group of players, and then it would have a bigger map, and I think that would kind of generate more strategy too. How do you feel about that?
I think that would be really cool, actually. Something like that, or even like a 3 versus 3 versus 3 sort of thing. I think definitely bigger. That would add a totally different, just sort of like how Brawl Ball is something totally different from all the other game modes, but it's still very interesting, and it's sort of nice to have that different feels for the game modes.
Yeah, I totally agree. That was the cool idea, having 3v3v3, or having even 4 teams or whatever. It'd be really cool.
You keep going.
That's the cool thing about the game, is that if you just think a little bit outside the box, like that's not groundbreaking, but there's a lot of possibilities, without changing the game entirely. So before we let you go, Cory, give me a few quick questions for you. Who do you think is the best brawler for each game mode? Lightning speed, go. I'm putting you on the spot here.
Okay, so I think Barley and Dynamic are probably the most well-rounded in probably every single game mode.
Okay.
As well as Crow. So I'll say Smash and Grab is probably going to be Barley. Showdown. Oh, man. Who was I going to say? Oh, yeah, it's obviously Barley or Dynamite. Definitely those two. Heist. I want to say Crow. Just because I think he makes it so much easier to defend.
Just by being annoying?
Yeah, just by being annoying. And then Brawl Ball, El Primo, or Mortis. What am I forgetting? Bounty. Bounty, I would either say like Brock or Crow. Is what I would say.
Okay, and who do you think is the worst brawler in the game?
Mortis.
Mortis!
I'm not hesitating.
How the great have fallen. How the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, and I think they're sort of stuck with what to do with him, because he's actually one of the top brawlers in Brawl Ball, but he sort of sucks in everything else.
Okay,
to be frank.
Yeah, remember when we started and it was like if Mort was on the other team, you're like, oh, forget it. It sucks. You know?
Yeah.
Now like all the nerfs have kind of taken their toll on him. Okay, so what is your favorite game mode?
I think I like smash and grab the most, just because I think it's really very strategy based, and you can almost always pinpoint, you know, when the mistake was made. That sort of, if you lost the game, you know, when you lost the game, you'll figure out, okay, well, these things happened, and that's why we died. You know, we didn't back up far enough, or we were too aggressive when one of our teammates was dead, or whoever had the gems was too far forward. You can like tell. It's just more strategy based. I really like it.
If you had to pick a team of 3 to win just one match in Smash and Grab, what 3 brawlers would you choose?
Okay, one of my most fun and like favorite, I guess, team compositions is with Pam, and then because she can really support a lot, and her healing turret allows other like low health brawlers to really thrive otherwise. So like Pam, and then like a Barley, and then like a Colt, or something like that, or like a Tara.
Okay.
I think can be really strong.
Okay. And last question for you. What's the best way to level up brawlers throughout the progression of the game? So in other words, what game mode are you playing if your only goal is to level up as quickly as possible until what trophy threshold?
Yeah, so my recommendation is for whatever game mode you're playing and whatever map it is, always try and use the best team composition. Don't so much focus on, you know, leveling up specific brawlers. I think it's easier to win if you're just using the best stuff. But otherwise, as far as best game mode, probably Showdown is probably the easiest if you're not able to be with a good team. If you can find a good team like in your clan, then definitely do that. But otherwise, I would probably do Showdown as opposed to playing with randoms until you get to, depending on your elixir or whatever, you can get to around 200 to 300 trophies. I have heard of people maxing out brawlers in Showdown. It's not for me.
Yeah.
But it is possible.
Yeah, those lonely people who can't find a group, they have no choice. Well, what do you?
I guess so.
I lied. Next final question is, how do you feel about the whole teaming thing in Showdown? It's obviously been a hot button topic in the community. Where do you stand on that? Does it need to be fixed or no?
So at first I really hated it, and then Supercell sort of said it was okay, and I was like, okay, well, I guess I can't sort of hate it now. So now I'm like sort of okay with it. I think it totally changed how it is, and I think that's why they said they want to do a new game mode where you can't team, but it's sort of a similar idea to Showdown. So I'm interested to see what that ends up being. I think if they can successfully do that, then I'll end up being totally fine with teaming in Showdown because it'll just be a thing. I wish it happened less, but I don't know if there's really not much you can do about it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. Exactly there. You said it best. But all right, man. Well, Cory, thank you so much for coming on. Your channel as of right now is called it's still called Brawl Stars. Are you changing the channel name as well?
It's already Coach Cory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Coach Cory Brawl Stars now.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go ahead.
Changed it yesterday.
Okay, great. Well, we'll go ahead and link the channel and put it in the pinned comment for you guys to check out. Any final shout-outs, anything like that before we let you go, Cory?
Just shout out to my band Invictus. You guys rock. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for having me on, Ash. It's been awesome.
No problem, man. Love the discussion. So that is going to do it. Again, huge shout out to Cory for coming on. Check out his YouTube channel. Subscribe if I haven't mentioned that before, which I did. So you guys won't regret the decision. So thank you so much to Bren Chong, my YouTube sponsor. Check out his information as well in the description below, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, take care, guys.